Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us here today with Family Network on Disabilities. My name is Latasha Burr. I'm the Multicultural Outreach Coordinator for Family Network on Disabilities, and today you are joining us for one of our informative webinars just for fathers. So today we're going to highlight some of those things that we think of as parents, but we want to gear it toward those parents who happen to be male. This is all about fathers today. So let's get into it. We want to talk about it. That's what we're going to call this series. Let's talk about it. So we'll be discussing a few things, a few different topics that we have here prepared for you with Family Network on Disabilities, and more specifically, the Family Star program. Let's talk about it. These will be services and resources that we have tailored for fathers of children with disabilities in their families. So we want to talk about how navigating the process doesn't have to be difficult. So with the Family Star program, which stands for Support, Training, Assistance, and Resources, we are the Family to Family Health Information Center of Florida, and we support families of children and youth who have special health care needs and also complex medical needs, and professionals and organizations as well. So today we are assisting fathers and helping those families to be effective partners in the healthcare decisions and all of those decision-making process on various different levels. Today, we want to highlight fathers and understand that you can be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about your feelings and break down even if you need to. It's not a slight on you at any time. If you need to cry or you need to have support. We want you to be comfortable enough to come to us if you need to and ask for help. Understanding that therapy goes both ways. It's not just for those loved ones that we care for with disabilities, but also for families as well. And should you need any type of resources and support from us with Family Network on Disabilities and the Family Star program, please understand that we are here to help. Today, we will be talking about cultural diversity, how that impacts families, and especially those families who care for children with complex medical needs. Let's go ahead and get started. Today, we'll be talking about cultural diversity. Thank you so much. We want to say thank you just one more time. We're glad that you decided to join us today. We at the Family Network on Disabilities are a nonprofit 501c3 here for the state of Florida, family-centered and family-driven statewide parent training and information center. That stands for, that acronym, is PTI, Parent Training and Information, and also the Family to Family Health Information Center as well. Before we get started, we like for you to know that we do not act as formal attorneys or doctors or even mental health professionals. The information that you receive in this webinar cannot be deemed as legal or medical advice. However, we do provide information, resources, and support to those families and create research-based trainings that will help you to be an informed parent and encourage collaboration with schools and agencies alike. So on behalf of all three of our regional PTIs you see at the very bottom of the screen and the Family Star program, we want to say welcome. Thanks so much for joining us here today. So in this training, we'll be looking at cultures, diversities, and how we can work as a collaborative team for the benefit of all people involved. We live in a diverse world, a very diverse world, and it gets increasingly diverse as the years go by. So this society will include a number of people who experience to some degree a bit of alienation, especially in those office settings and provider visits. So these are some of the things that we will highlight in today's webinar. Let's talk about culture. What is culture? Well, culture can be defined as characteristics or knowledge of a particular group of people encompassing language, religion, the things they eat, cuisine, social habits, music, and even arts. It's an idealized definition, and it's the way that our ancestors can speak through us. It's a working definition as well. So these are all different types of learned traditions, learned loyalties, learned beliefs, customs, and all of those things that will guide the behavior of a particular group of people. And there are a couple of concepts that will be encompassed in this full gamut of what a culture is. Cultural pluralism, that's a term that's used when smaller groups within a larger group of society maintain their unique identities and their values and those practices are accepted by that wider culture, provided that they are consistent with the laws and values of that wider society. So you'll see here, you'll see all of these different types of multicultural concepts, which is diversity as being valued. Oneness is not the same as not sameness, and balancing differences within those commonalities. We'll talk about multiple perspectives, how one perspective can have a different type of view across that cultural pluralism, if you will. And also visibility and awareness of what certain stereotypes look like as well. We're all multicultural. We are not one individual. We are a collective. They're members of many, many groups that have different types of cultural aspects. Think of gender, social class, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, all of those different types of cultures within the full constraint of the overall culture. So the dynamic is our loyalties and what they look like over time and how that they can change. They're complex because no one group is an island unto itself. Those groups will overlap. There are different types of elements, and all of these elements that you see here bring us together in a unique way of living with others. Let's talk about a couple of these different types of cultural elements that you may see, the values and beliefs that you hold, those customs and traditions that your family will engage in. Also, how do you communicate with each other? What types of language patterns do you have? Your diet, your cuisine, that food preparation. Do you prefer more gourmet or those traditional traditional food recipes that have been passed down from generation to generation? How do you dress? How do you decorate your body and adorn with accessories and that types of thing? What types of religious practices do you engage in? What does your family structure look like? What your view for any one of these different aspects may look like over time can vary. And we also think of all of those extracurriculars as far as recreation and athletic games that can be a part of those cultural elements as well. So we talked about culture. Let's think about now, what is diversity? Well, diversity refers to the wide range of cultural differences found between and within nations. So if you say, look around the room, if we were in person, do you see any cultural diversity? And what about within your family? Is there any different types of cultural diversity? Well, here, because we are looking at a screen, the video, you see these people here. Do you see different, is there diversity between the people that you see here? Well, you really can't tell if you think about it. We're talking about differences between nations. These people could all be from one nation or from varied nations. You never know. So you want to think in terms of what diversity means in the space that you are in, and thinking in terms of what your family looks like in the space of, well, you have one family unit, the family that lives with you within those four walls, and then what does your larger family unit look like, your extended family? These are all different ways that you can understand what diversity looks like in that sense. Diversity has value. It's not a deficit. It's more than tolerance. It is a strength. It's a strength of the collective. The uniqueness that we have brings together unison. It brings together harmony. It's all about equality. Civil rights and social justice is just included in our founding documents. That's a positive adaptation as well. And democracy is made when many points of view are listened to. Remember, there's beauty in diversity. There's beauty in all of the differences that we make that form a collective. Cultural diversity, it's important because our countries, our workplaces, our schools that our children attend, they're all increasingly different. They're all increasingly varied. They consist of different types of cultures, races, ethnic groups. We can all learn from those differences. But first, we have to have a level of understanding about each other in order to facilitate that collaboration and understanding. And that brings forth cooperations, especially when you are taking into account all of those differences and making them work for you. Diversity has value. So here's some ways that you could think of as far as being a caregiver and in families where diversity has value. It can make it better because you hear a lot of different views. You are not controlled over nature. You're able to do different things and intervene when you understand what those background instances are. There can be strong measures and be able to help you to be able to plan ahead and understand how the past will give you different synopses and different ways of understanding what is going on right now within your family. You think about this when you see plan ahead, recent is best, standardize and treat everyone the same. These are different ways that you can be able to understand all of those things. As caregivers, we may have previously taken on within our families and understanding how to bring those differences to the forefront and help those loved ones, especially our loved ones that we care for with disabilities. Now, as for a caregiver within families, you can accept those diverse differences with grace, find balance and harmony with nature. You can also wait and see, understanding that because you have first seen something that you never saw before, understand what that process looks like and how that diversity can be adapted. Being cautious in your deliberation when you have found those things that you may not have understand, but taking a gentle approach with them. You take life as it comes, being time honored and being able to individualize and recognize those differences, remembering that it is our differences that make us whole. So for goals for some of families could be including such items as these bullet points you see right here: improving open communication and trust, having those lines of communication open where you feel comfortable enough to speak on the differences and how they make you feel. Also, eliminating biases in medical office interactions and learning medical language could be a great goal for your family, especially when you're teaching self-determination for our loved ones with disabilities. Also, incorporating minority perspectives into all aspects of the communication and fostering respect and appreciation for the contributions that a society have been made for those people considered as minorities. So mutual respect, mutual adoration, and respect, and those respecting those contributions that minorities have made helps within that collective as well. So we want to think in terms of what we can do first as individuals and caregivers and within families, and then structuring those goals within the families to bring together that mutual respect for all people. So when you are working with interpreters for the language consideration, these are different qualifications that you may think. There are three here. Number one, being bilingual, bicultural, that and understanding English medical vocabulary. This is what we want to provoke when you are working within an office setting or a medical setting. These are some of the qualifications that will make a great interpreter for your family, and going across those cultural boundaries. being comfortable in the medical setting and understanding the significance of the health problem as well. And they preserve your confidentiality once those interactions within that office are concluded. So we want to use language to identify the interpreter as just the go-between, not as the person to either be blamed or spoken to directly. The interpreter is the interpreter. They are the go-between between the individual and that office staff. So they cannot, the interpreter just might say, the doctor has ordered tests and this is what he says, in order to clarify those distinctions. But if there's a distinct line between the interpreter, the person who they are helping, and the office staff. The interpreter is the go-between. So if you're working with an interpreter, these are different factors that you may see, excuse me, as well. Number one is the language. How are new words created? And number two, minimizing jargon and different type of slang, saying machine to look at your heart instead of saying the EKG. So number three, there's nonverbal communication as well. 60% of all communication is nonverbal. We want to be able to pick up on those cues and have the interpreter, remember, the interpreter is the go-between. These are the ways that they facilitate the communication between the disabled person and that office staff. Also, nodding may indicate politeness, but not necessarily comprehension. So even if you are nodding and saying, okay, yes, I hear you, there still may be a level of understanding that has not been fully comprehended in that instance. That takes on another term. With number five, bilingual interviewing takes at least twice as long as monolingual interviews. So if that culture barrier is the point of communication where the individual with the disability speaks one language and the office staff speaks the other, and the interpreter as being the go-between, you have to think in terms of what the time would look like to be able to interpret what is said in a manner that reduces, remember these factors, reduces that jargon and still optimizes your nonverbal communication as well as aiding in comprehension. That can take some time. So this is a few things that you want to think of when you're working with interpreters. Now, before we talked about caregivers' responsibilities, these may look different across different cultures as well. So in some cultures, it may not be appropriate to suggest making a will for dying patients or patients with terminal illnesses. This is the cultural equivalent in some ideologies as wishing death on a patient. These are things that you want to take and consider. So avoid saying that you must, using that four-letter word, M-U-S-T, must. Instead, teach patients their options, give them those lists of things that they may consider, and let them decide. So for example, saying some people in this situation would or might or may, or these are things that you might want to consider. All of those different types of things are just items that you want to think about when you're dealing with different cultures. That's understanding what those differences look like and how we can embrace them and help as caregivers and family members. So caregivers' responsibilities can be varied as well, especially across different cultures. And we want to explore those as well. Learn to use few phrases and greeting, and that might be different from what you speak, and learning to use those phrases of greeting and introduction in the patient's native language. Or even if you are going to an office where there are different cultures there, and learning to speak their language as well. This conveys respect. Remember, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and it demonstrates your willingness to learn about their culture. And telling the patient that the interpreter will translate everything that's said, and so they must stop every few sentences so as not to have phrases that are so long that the interpreter would have a difficult time conveying those messages. So cultural diversity in healthcare is all about acquiring competence, acquiring cultural competence. It starts with awareness. Cultural competence is the ability to interact effectively with people of different cultures. It means that you're respectful. It means that you are responsive to those healthcare beliefs, responsive to those practices, and cultural and linguistic needs of diverse populations and groups of people. Starts with awareness, learning something about the people that you are speaking with. It grows with knowledge and enhances specific skills, especially if, how would you feel if you had never been someplace and someone said hello to you in your native speak? Well, that goes with awareness, and it grows with knowledge, those specific words that you may be able to say, or specific phrases that could put the person at ease. And it's polished through cross-cultural encounters. Remember, we think about being able to practice those different types of aspects and what they look like over time. Time and patience and reverence and respect go a long way. And so in this way, when we are able to practice across cross-cultural encounters, it helps us grow as family members as well. So cultural diversity in healthcare is what we bring into the world. It's because we are so different that makes each one of us special, and it makes us competent in our goal as caregivers to make sure that we pass that on, not only for the sense of the person that we are caring for with a disability, but also bringing that diversity and that competence and that respect in social settings and also in healthcare to the world as the conduit between our loved ones with disabilities and the people that they interact with. It's because we are different that makes our collective so unique and so special. So we hope that these different types of bullet points, different factors and definitions and meanings that we talked about today helped you. Please let us know. If there's more that you would like to see in our workshops, please let us know. This is how we are able to help you in this instance. So on behalf of our Family Network on Disabilities umbrella with Poppin in the Panhandle, PSN in Central Western Florida, and PEN in Central Southern Florida, and the Family STAR program, which encompasses a statewide program for families who care for children with complex medical needs. We want to say thank you for joining us here today. Make sure to stop by our website at www.fndusa.org and visit us on all of our social media channels through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have more information, if you'd like to contact us at Family Network on Disabilities, and also to schedule a live workshop for your organization, please give us a call at 1-800-825-5736. Again, that number is 1-800-825-5736. And on behalf of Family Star with Family Network on Disabilities, we just wanted to say thank you again for joining us. Remember that it is okay to not be okay. And should you need us for anything, FND is here to help. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.